Let me introduce you to the best cinnamon roll that I've ever eaten. Today I am making double cream cheese loaded cinnamon rolls that are so decadent, these will quench any cinnamon roll cravings that you could ever possibly have. First thing I'm going to be doing is combining yeast and sugar with a quarter cup of water that I have heated to 115 degrees Fahrenheit, and I'm going to let that sit for about 10 minutes until it is foamy. While I am waiting for the yeast mixture to do its thing, I am going to crack these eggs for the dough, which calls for 1 egg and 1 egg yolk. And it looks like the yeast mixture is done, and see how it kind of has that little foamy layer on the top. And now I am adding the sugar, milk, light brown sugar, vanilla, and the eggs to the yeast mixture, and then I'm going to mix this on low speed until it's combined. And now that it looks to be fully combined, I am adding the flour and the salt, and I am mixing this on medium speed until the dough starts to come together. And then once it starts coming together, I'm going to crank this mixer up to medium-high speed to knead the dough for about 4 minutes. I would have just cranked this up to full high speed, but my KitchenAid was kind of getting a little out of control, so I kept it at medium-high. But if you can go up to high, that is great. And now that the 4 minutes is up, I am adding the butter and continuing to knead the dough until it's smooth. And I also stopped midway to scrape down the sides of the bowls a little bit. All right, look at how gorgeous that dough is. I'm now covering it and placing it in a warm spot for 2 hours. It should be double in size by the time it is done rising. And while the dough is rising, I am now moving on to the filling portion of the recipe. Of course, these filling ingredients are all modifiable. For many years, I never added raisins because I wasn't into them. But recently I've been enjoying raisins in my cinnamon rolls. And the same goes for the nuts. You could switch these pecans out for walnuts, or if you're not into nuts, you can just leave them out altogether. And then once I'm finished mixing this, I'm just going to set it aside until I put the cinnamon rolls together. And this is the cream cheese butter layer that I am mixing together to get it to a spreadable consistency, because I'm going to spread this on top of the dough. And now the dough is done with its 2-hour rise and it's looking super luscious. I am transferring it to my floured counter and I'm kneading it until it's no longer sticky. Then I am taking a rolling pin and I'm going to roll the dough out to a 12-inch by 12-inch square. And now that the dough is rolled out, I am spreading the cream cheese butter mixture evenly on top of the dough square. So the next step is to fold the dough into thirds. And then I'm going to take the ends and fold those into thirds as well. So now I have a nice little dough square, and then I'm going to flip it with its seam side down and roll the dough into a 10 by 20 inch rectangle. The next step is to take the melted butter and brush the dough. And I'm just going to get every little area of the dough's surface. And then I'm going to take the super rich, delicious filling and pour it onto the dough and spread it evenly. And you're going to want to leave kind of like an inch around the edges without the filling. So you're going to want to kind of avoid that just so it's easier to roll. And then once the filling is evenly distributed, you're going to want to gently press that down into the dough. And now it's roll time. I am taking the end of the dough and I am tightly rolling it up to the top, and I'm trying to do it as evenly as possible. And then I'm transferring this to a cutting board to cut the dough. And look at how beautiful that is. You can see the raisins and the nuts, and you can see that little cream cheese butter layer, and it's super, super gorgeous. And this batch can be cut into 8 pieces, and I'm transferring those cinnamon roll pieces to a buttered 9 by 13 Pyrex baking dish. And then I'm going to cover this with saran wrap and have it rise for another 2 hours. And voila, they are good to go 2 hours later, like magic. They are ready to be put in the oven, and I have the oven heated to 375 degrees, and I'm going to stick them in there for 30 minutes or until they're pretty golden brown on top. And while the cinnamon rolls are baking, I am making a classic cream cheese frosting. And for the frosting, and also for the cinnamon rolls, I used salted butter. I like the extra salt, and I think everything turned out perfectly. But of course, you are able to use unsalted butter if you would like. And now that these cinnamon rolls, look at that bubbling goo deliciousness. I am brushing the top of the cinnamon rolls with some melted butter. And then after about 5 minutes, I'm going to take the cream cheese frosting and I'm going to slather it on top of the cinnamon rolls. And again, friends and family will love these cinnamon rolls. And if you have kids that are a little pickier, you can definitely take out the nuts, you can take out the raisins, but pretty much everyone should be obsessed with these. They're just the perfect cinnamon roll. So enjoy this recipe, everybody.